Deep beneath the earth, in the forgotten chambers of the rune essence mine, something stirs. The ancient ley lines, veins of pure creation that have pulsed unchanged since the first age, begin to scream. Not in sound, but in wrongness. Reality itself buckles. The dimensional veil tears. A wound opens in the fabric of Gielinor, and through it pours energy that shouldn't exist here. Not anima, not divine power, something foreign, something that makes the very stones recoil. Pure creation energy floods into Lumbridge Marsh, turning the peaceful wetlands into a kaleidoscope of refracted light and impossible geometries. Then comes the blade. A line of black light pierces the sky above Lumbridge, cutting through the celestial sphere like a razor through parchment. The wound bleeds shadow, and through that shadow he descends. Sephiroth. His single black wing unfurls as he falls, each feather drinking in the moonlight until the night itself seems to dim. The air around him crystallizes, not into ice, but into something that resembles the Mako energy of his world, a haze that distorts vision and makes breathing feel like inhaling memories. His boots touch the soft earth of Gielinor for the first time. The marsh grass withers. The nearby Bronzeman tutorial guide freezes mid-gesture, his programming unable to process this anomaly. Sephiroth lifts his gaze to the fractal sun hanging in Gielinor's strange sky, a sun that moves in patterns no physicist from his world could comprehend. His green eyes narrow, his voice, soft as falling ash, carries across the dimensional wound. Another world bound in lies. The effect is immediate and catastrophic. The dimensional equilibrium that has held Gielinor stable for millennia ruptures like overstressed glass. In the rune essence mine below, every fragment of pure essence detonates simultaneously in cascading blue-white fire. The explosion doesn't destroy, it unmakes, returning matter to pre-creation potential. The abyss convulses. 1,000 unbound souls, lost mages, failed summoners, forgotten adventurers trapped between dimensions, collapse inward. They dissolve into motes of corrupted data, their existence reduced to error messages in reality's code. And Gielinor's code, the fundamental laws written by the elder gods themselves, flinches. In Varrock Palace, every single scrying orb shatters. The wise old man's library catches fire spontaneously as forbidden texts rewrite themselves. In Ardun, the Tower of Life's experiments begin screaming in languages that predate language itself. Something that should not be has arrived in Runescape, and it does not intend to leave. The alarm bells of Lumbridge Castle ring 3 times, the pattern reserved for dimensional breaches. Within minutes, the Lumbridge Guard assembles at the marshland's edge, their polished bronze and iron armor catching the strange, refracted light still bleeding from the tear in reality. Captain Sigmund, veteran of goblin wars and demon incursions, surveys the silver-haired figure standing in the crater. His enchanted monocle flickers, attempting to categorize the threat through layers of identification runes. The readout stutters. Unknown. Zamorakian signature. Negative. Elder God fragment. Error. Combat level. Undefined. Zamorakian manifestation, Sigmund declares, his voice steady. Possibly a fragment of Zaros, given the wing. Protocol 7. Contain and banish. The Varrock enforcers arrive moments later via teleport, their purple robes still crackling with residual magic. Master Wizard Cedrador himself has come, staff glowing with charged air runes. He traces complex patterns in the air, his centuries of experience cataloging every known entity in Gielinor's bestiary. Not Zamorakian, he mutters, not demonic, not anything. The anima mundi doesn't recognize his existence. Then we make it simple, Sigmund responds. He raises his hand. Archers, loose! A rain of rune-tipped arrows arcs through the crystallized air. Each arrow carries enchantments older than the Third Age. Pierce, poison, dragonbane. They should devastate even gods. They don't reach him. The arrows dissolve 3 feet from Sephiroth's position, their matter unraveling into streams of probability that never were. The enchantments flicker out like candles in a void. Cedridor doesn't hesitate. Bind, teleblock, smite. The incantations cascade from his staff, joined by a dozen battle mages. Purple energy, crackling lightning, divine light, the combined magical assault of Varrock's finest. Nothing lands. The spells distort around Sephiroth like light bending through water, but the water is causality itself. The energies disperse into static particles that violate fundamental rune essence law. They shouldn't be able to fail like this. Magic in Gielinor follows rules written by the elder gods themselves. But Sephiroth is not reading from that book. He moves. It's not teleportation. It's not speed. It's the simple assertion that he is there instead of here, and reality adjusts accordingly. One moment he stands in the crater. The next he's 500 yards away in Varrock, standing before the Grand Exchange. His hand extends. The Masamune, that impossibly long blade, cuts upward through the air in a gesture of casual dismissal. The Grand Exchange clock tower, that monument to commerce and player interaction, that structure that has stood since the founding of the modern trading system, splits down its exact center. The cut is so clean that for 3 heartbeats, the 2 halves remain standing, perfectly divided. Then they fall. Every guard who witnessed the motion, 24 veteran warriors, 5 battle mages, Captain Sigmund himself, simply ceases. Not explosion, not death. They evaporate into something the survivors will later call memory ash. Fine gray particles that smell like forgotten names and abandoned characters. In Draenor Manor, hunched over his clairvoyant glass sphere, the wise old man watches it all unfold. His ancient hands tremble, not from fear, but from recognition of something that shouldn't exist. He's seen gods rise and fall. He's witnessed elder artifacts tear through armies. He's studied the Dragonkin's rage and the Majorat's immortal hunger. This is different. He doesn't draw from mana, the old man whispers to himself, his breath fogging the glass. Not from prayer, not from the anima mundi. He's self-contained, a closed system, a will-wearing form. He fumbles for his communication crystal, hands shaking so badly it takes 3 attempts to activate it. When the War Council answers, his voice cracks with urgency he hasn't felt in centuries. Stop treating this as invasion. This isn't conquest. This is... He watches Sephiroth turn toward Falador, that silver hair catching light that isn't there. Ontological warfare. The crystal goes dark. Across Gielinor, every major faction simultaneously realizes the same terrible truth. They have no framework for understanding what has arrived in their world. And what you cannot understand, you cannot fight. The Lumbridge Guard, the Varrock Enforcers, the entire military apparatus of Gielinor, trivialized in seconds by something that simply refuses to acknowledge their rules. Falador Cathedral has stood for 3 ages as a monument to order, its white stone blessed by Saradomin himself. Within its war room, beneath vaulted ceilings carved with prayers to lost gods, the most powerful beings in Gielinor gather around a circular table of polished oak. This is not a meeting. This is a funeral for certainty. Sir Amikvar's, Lord of the White Knights, stands at the table's head, his blessed armor, forged to resist demon fire and dragon breath, feels suddenly inadequate. Beside him sits the wise old man, still trembling from his scrying vision. Across from them, a Majorat emissary of Zaros materializes through purple smoke, his ancient eyes holding the weight of millennia. 3 seers of Camelot flank the corners, their minds linked to the fading dreams of Guthix himself. We face an elder god fragment, Sir Amik begins, his voice carrying the confidence of military tradition. Contain it in the ancient prison, bind it with elder rune matrices, exile it to... It is not an elder god, the wise old man interrupts, his voice hoarse. I've compiled the data. Sephiroth's energy signature doesn't exist within the Anima Mundi index. Not in any record, not in any prophecy. The World Guardian's blessing doesn't register him as a threat, because he isn't from this creation. He spreads parchments across the table, scrying reports, magical resonance charts, combat analysis from the Varric massacre. Every measurement shows the same impossible result. Look at the casualty vectors. He treats causality as optional. Statistical miracles collapse around him. Our guards didn't die. They were edited out. Their anima didn't return to the cycle. They just stopped having ever mattered. One of the seers speaks, her voice harmonizing with her sister's in eerie synchronization. We have touched the residue of his presence. It tastes of endings without rebirth, of heat death made conscious. Even the dragonkin's rage carries purpose, vengeance. Even Zamorak's chaos seeks transformation. This entity seeks only cessation, the Majorat completes. His name is Akthanakos, ancient even among his kind. I have felt the Elder Gods' disappointment when creation failed to meet their design. But they reset. They begin anew. This, Sephiroth. He carries similar disappointment, but twisted. He is despair made sentient. No cyclical intent, no rebirth, only deletion. Sir Amik's fist slamped the table. Then we fight. The combined might of Saradomin, Zamorak, Armadil. You don't understand, Akthanakos cuts him off. He is not governed by purpose that we can manipulate. He threatens ontology itself, the structure of existence. You cannot sword fight a philosophical position. The debate rages for hours as reports flood in. Sephiroth moves through Gielinor at will, studying, not conquering, observing. He stands in the wilderness for 3 hours, watching players hunt revenants, his expression unreadable. He materializes in Prifdinas, causing the entire elven city to experience recursive time loops for 17 minutes before moving on. Each faction proposes their solution. The Saradominist approach. Promise him transcendence. Tell him we can grant him godhood, integration into the divine hierarchy. He clearly possesses god-tier power. We offer him systemization, a place in creation rather than against it. Sir Amik dispatches his most eloquent priests. They find Sephiroth standing before the statue of Saradomin in Lumbridge Church. The priests speak of redemption, of finding peace through service to order, of channeling his obvious power toward protective purpose. Sephiroth listens. Then he responds, Your God maintains a broken system and calls it salvation. I will not prop up another false heaven. The priests insist. Sephiroth places one hand on Saradomin's statue. It doesn't shatter. It transforms into a monument to something that might have been, if hope had ever been real. The priests flee, their faith structure cracking. The Zerosian Gambit. Octhanikos himself approaches, offering what the empty Lord would offer. This world is an experiment. Seize it. Study it. Break it apart to understand it. Is that not what you seek? Understanding through deconstruction. They meet in the ruins of Sentistan, where Zaros' power still echoes. The Mahjarat explains the beauty of manipulating mortal civilizations, of treating reality as a laboratory, of ascending beyond good and evil into pure intellectual conquest. Sephiroth considers this. For the first time, something like interest crosses his face. Your God manipulates because he fears irrelevance. I have transcended such attachments. Then what do you want? Octhanikos demands. For it to end correctly. This world, like all worlds, is a mistake. I will help it realize that. The Void Knight's containment. They arrive with pest control technology, dimensional anchors, the same methods used to seal the void itself. Commodore Tyr leads the operation personally. Hundreds of knights working in perfect synchronization to weave a containment field powered by every resource at their disposal. The field activates. For 3 seconds, it holds. Then Sephiroth simply decides it doesn't. The field unravels not from external force, but because his will supersedes the reality. The field exists within. 12 Void Knights vanish. Commodore Tyr survives only because Sephiroth allows it, wanting someone to report the failure. Back in Falador Cathedral, the wise old man unveils his final analysis. His hands shake as he pins the last document to the wall, a theological comparison chart that took him 40 years of research to compile. I've mapped every destroyer in our history, Zamorak's chaos, the Dragonkin's wrath, even the Elder God's resets. They all follow patterns. They all want something, transformation, vengeance, perfection through iteration. He circles Sephiroth's profile in red ink. He wants nothing. He is nothing wearing the skin of purpose. Do you understand? He's not an invader. He's a walk-in philosophical argument that creation was a mistake. And every second he exists here, that argument becomes more convincing to reality itself. One of the seers convulses, her sisters catching her. When she speaks, it's with Guthix's fading voice. You cannot exile intent. You cannot imprison a conclusion. If he believes the world should end, and his will is strong enough, then she doesn't finish. She doesn't need to. It happens at midnight. Across Gielinor's ley lines, those invisible rivers of power connecting every magical nexus, something shifts. The change originates from Sephiroth's location in the wilderness, spreading outward like ink in water. His form begins to change. The single black wing multiplies, fractalizing into impossible geometries. His body elongates, divine and terrible, as the transformation he calls one-winged angel triggers not just in him, but through the world itself. The ley lines scream. Prayer altars crack. Rune essence throughout Gielinor begins vibrating at frequencies that shouldn't exist. His rage, cold, purposeful, absolute, translates directly into physical law distortion. In Falador Cathedral, every candle extinguishes. The wise old man watches through his scrying glass as reality around Sephiroth bends, not from power, but from pure conviction that it should bend. He's not fighting the world, the old man whispers. He's rewriting the rules we fight by. Sir Amikvarj stands, his hand on his sword, knowing it's meaningless, but unable to do nothing. Then we take this to the highest authority. We wake the elder gods themselves if we must. The Majorat emissary shakes his head slowly. You still don't understand. The elder gods can reset creation. Sephiroth can make them forget why they bothered. Outside, the stars begin to flicker, not from distance, but from doubt about their own existence. The philosophical war has begun, and Gielinor is losing the argument. The World Gate stands at the edge of comprehension, a massive circular construct of elder god design, its surface rippling with portals to countless realms. Beside it, sealed in crystallized time and frozen anima, lies the ancient prison, a structure predating the gods themselves, designed to contain threats that should not be destroyed, but cannot be allowed to exist freely. It is here that they choose to make their stand, not because they believe they can win, but because losing here might save everything else. The trap is simple: knowledge. The Majorat spread word through dimensional echoes that the ancient prison contains the original blueprints of creation, the elder gods' first drafts, their mistakes, their abandoned designs, information that would prove creation was flawed from inception. For something that wants to validate the universe's worthlessness, it is irresistible bait. Sephiroth arrives at dawn, though dawn itself seems uncertain in his presence. The World Gate's portals flicker erratically, showing glimpses of worlds that shouldn't exist, timelines that never were. He approaches the ancient prison with the patience of inevitability. Then he manifests Zaros, not through avatar or proxy, but direct materialization, a spectral conduit carrying the full weight of the Empty Lord's consciousness. The air crystallizes purple. Reality bends around dual centers of gravity, the alien destroyer and the ancient manipulator god. For the first time since arriving in Gielinor, Sephiroth stops walking. Zaros' form is impossibly tall, wreathed in shadow and starlight, his presence alone enough to make mortals forget their own names. He has toppled empires with words, rewritten the nature of divinity itself, mastered death and time. When he speaks, his voice resonates across 7 dimensions simultaneously. I am the architect of dominion, the one who persists when all others fade. Your presence here violates my design. Sephiroth tilts his head, studying this new variable. Your design is already violated. You built castles from broken pieces and called yourself king. Then allow me to show you, Zaros responds, what divinity truly means in this world. The Empty Lord strikes first, not with magic, but with conceptual authority. He attempts to impose his will directly onto Sephiroth's existence, to redefine him as a subordinate element, a piece that fits into Zaros' grand pattern. It's the same power that dominated Zamorak for millennia, that bent the Majorat to servitude, that made empires rise and fall on whispered commands. Sephiroth feels it wash over him like rain, and he responds, one movement, one extension of the Masamune, a cut that shouldn't exist in 3-dimensional space. The blade passes through where Zaros manifests. The god's spectral form flickers, not damaged, but questioned. For the first time in eons, Zaros experiences something he'd thought impossible: doubt about his own permanence. But the true devastation isn't aimed at the god. The ancient prison, that monument to containment, that structure woven from the dreams of sleeping elder gods, that crystallization of absolute law, cracks. Not from external force, but from its internal contradiction. Sephiroth's strike carries a simple message. Nothing should be preserved. The ice doesn't just melt, it unmakes. Thousands of years of accumulated memory stored in the prison's crystalline structure, Majorat's secrets, forbidden histories, the true names of things that should remain unnamed, disintegrates. Not destroyed, edited out. The information doesn't become lost. It becomes never having existed. 3. Majorat observing from a dimensional fold simply cease. Their immortal essence, their thousands of years of accumulated identity, unravels like thread from a cut tapestry. The survivors, Akthanakos, Azanadra, even the distant Sliske, feel portions of their own memories vanish. They forget brothers they fought beside, wars they waged, the taste of their first victory. Zaros witnesses this and understands with terrible clarity. Physical defeat is irrelevant. Sephiroth's existence doesn't destroy, it erodes meaning itself. Every moment he persists in Gielinor, the world becomes slightly less real, slightly less convinced of its own validity. You cannot be bargained with, Zaros says, his multi-dimensional voice containing something mortals might mistake for respect. You are negation incarnate. I am the answer, Sephiroth replies, to a question creation should never have asked. He raises his hand, not in threat, but in demonstration. Let me show you what finality looks like. The word escapes his lips like a prayer to entropy, supernova. It begins as a point of absolute darkness behind him. Not absence of light, but presence of ending. The sphere expands, not through space, but through meaning. This is Sephiroth's signature technique, the move that destroyed solar systems in his world, translated into Gielinor's framework. But here, it doesn't destroy matter. It destroys context. The metaphysical impact radiates outward in waves. The first wave. Every altar across Gielinor goes silent. In Edgeville, monks praying to Saradomin feel their faith drain, like water through cupped hands. The connection to divine power simply stops. Prayer points don't deplete. They become meaningless. Gods feel their followers' devotion transform into background static. The second wave. The rune essence veins throughout Gielinor scream and go quiet. In the wizard's tower, every spell mid-casting fizzles. Runes crumble to dust. Enchantments unravel. Magic doesn't fail. It forgets how to work. Cedridor watches his staff, source of a century's power, become just wood, just matter, just nothing in particular. The final wave. Over Misthalin, from Varric to Lumbridge to Draenor, time stutters. Not stops, but doubts. Clocks tick backward, then forward, then sideways through probabilities. People experience their own actions in reverse, then forget they experienced them, then remember something that never happened. The world guardian, normally immune to such effects, feels their questline achievements blur together into a single uncertain, maybe memory. The wise old man, watching through scrying arrays powered by backup anima reserves, sees the devastation ripple across his screens. He's calculating, always calculating, and the numbers tell a story that makes his ancient blood run cold. He's not attacking the world, the old man whispers to himself in his tower. He's making the world question why it bothers existing. At the world gate, Zaros pulls his manifestation back, not in retreat, but in recognition. This is not a battle he can win through power. This is not even a battle in the traditional sense. The elder gods will respond, Zaros says. Even you cannot deny their authority over creation. Sephiroth's green eyes reflect the collapsing supernova, and for the first time, something like grim satisfaction crosses his features. Then let them come. I will teach them what their mistake has birthed. The spectral conduit breaks. Zaros withdraws, carrying with him the terrible knowledge that Gielinor faces something unprecedented. Not an enemy to defeat, but a thesis to disprove. And they are losing the argument. Across Misthalin, as time slowly remembers how to flow correctly, as prayer connections flicker back to uncertain life, as mages desperately try to relearn why runes should work, every being in Gielinor feels it. The weight of philosophical defeat. The understanding that power, divinity, even reality itself might not be enough. Because how do you fight someone who is simply, absolutely, cosmically correct about everything being meaningless? Deep beneath Gielinor, in chambers that predate concepts like beneath and chamber, the elder gods stir. Not all of them. Jazz remains in her slumber. Field continues her dreaming. Bick tends to her gardens of potential life. But when, the elder god of cold and stasis, and Ma, the broken god of dark and light, sense the disruption, they do not awaken because Sephiroth is powerful. They've created and destroyed beings of comparable might. They do not awaken because he threatens the world. They've reset creation dozens of times. They awaken because he is right. His presence carries an argument they cannot refute through power. That creation is suffering, that existence is error, that the kindest act would be cessation. And the longer he exists in Gielinor, the more the world itself begins to believe him. The anima mundi, the world's soul, starts experiencing something it was never designed for. Existential depression. When rises first, her consciousness spreading through Gielinor like frost across glass. She observes Sephiroth from 1,000 angles simultaneously, analyzing this foreign element through lenses of pure creation logic. She sees the problem immediately. He exists outside their system. He is not made of anima. He does not draw from their power. He is a closed loop of will and conviction, importing his own physics, his own rules, his own ultimate conclusion. In the traditional sense, he is unbeatable. You cannot destroy what refuses to acknowledge destruction as a valid concept. But one is not interested in traditional methods. The intervention happens at the supernova's epicenter, where reality is most damaged, most uncertain, most willing to accept new definitions. The elder gods do not fight Sephiroth. Instead, they do what they do best. They create. Specifically, they create a place for him. Not a prison. Prisons can be escaped. Not a seal. Seals can be broken. They create a function for him within Gielinor's code. They redefine him not as invader, but as component. Not as destroyer, but as resource. Whence power floods the area, absolute zero touching every particle. But this isn't an attack. It's a rewrite. She's changing the fundamental question of his existence from, can he be stopped, to what is he made of? And if you ask that question with enough authority, with enough reality-defining power, even Sephiroth has to provide an answer. His body begins to fracture. Not painfully. There is no violence in this, only mathematics. His form, maintained by sheer will against all odds, finds itself subject to a logic even he cannot deny. Everything can be broken into smaller pieces. Everything has components. Everything is, at the most fundamental level, made of something. The Masamune dissolves first, becoming streams of refined silver data. The black wing unfurls and separates into individual feathers of pure concept. His silver hair unravels into threads of meaning. His body, that perfect manifestation of contempt for existence, breaks down into prismatic shards. For a moment, Sephiroth understands what is happening. His green eyes, the last thing to remain intact, burn with fury and something that might be respect. "You cannot destroy me," he says, his voice now coming from everywhere and nowhere. "I am inevitable." "We are not destroying you," Wen's voice resonates through the world code. "We are distributing you. You wanted to end creation. Instead, you will become part of what sustains it. This is mercy by our definition. Then I will poison you from within." Perhaps. We will see. The prismatic shards scatter across Gielinor like falling stars. They embed themselves into the rune essence veins, into the ley lines, into the very fabric of magic itself. Each shard carries a fragment of Sephiroth's consciousness, his memory, his absolute conviction that everything is meaningless. The wise old man watches it happen through his scrying orbs, documenting everything with shaking hands. He sees the shards settle into mining locations. Rune essence in the mine beneath Wizard's Tower, pure essence in the abyss, fragments in every magical nexus across the world. Days pass, then weeks. The world begins to stabilize. Prayer connections strengthen. Magic functions again, though mages report that certain spells now feel colder, more nihilistic. Time resumes its proper flow over Misthalin, though clockmakers swear their instruments occasionally tick backward when no one's looking. Life returns to normal. Players continue their quests. The Grand Exchange rebuilds. The guards who were erased are mourned, then gradually forgotten, as is the way with tragedies. But something has changed. 3 months after the dispersal, miners in the Rune Essence Mine discover something new. It's not listed in any runecrafting guide. It's not part of any known magical tradition. They call it Soul Fracture. It appears as a crystalline rune with silver-black sheen, its surface reflecting images that aren't there. When examined, it shows a glimpse of a silver-haired figure standing against a dying star. When held, it whispers. Not words exactly, more like memories of a being who wished for the death of worlds. The wise old man catalogs it in his final research document, stored in a locked vault beneath Draenor Manor. The Soul Fracture rune appears spontaneously in areas of high metaphysical stress. Its function remains unclear. Attempts to use it in traditional runecrafting result in spells that question their own validity. Enchantments made with it work perfectly, but seem reluctant, sad even. Most concerning, when multiple Soul Fracture runes are gathered in one place, sensitive individuals report hearing music, a song in a language that predates language. Something about the futility of stars, the mercy of ending, the peace that comes when everything finally gives up. I believe we have not destroyed Sephiroth. We have made him part of the world's operating system. And like any corrupted code, he will persist, waiting, whispering, reminding creation of its own purposelessness. But the world endures. The game continues. Perhaps that is victory enough. Years pass. The crisis fades into legend, then myth, then half-remembered rumors on forums and wikis. Most players never learn what happened. Those who are there often misremember the details, as though reality itself is uncertain about how to preserve the memory. But sometimes, late at night, when a player is alone in the wilderness or deep in a forgotten dungeon, they hear it. A song, faint, alien, beautiful in the way that entropy is beautiful. It speaks of a silver-haired being who arrived from beyond the dimensional veil, who looked at creation and found it wanting, who offered the mercy of ending and was denied, who now waits, distributed across every magical particle in Gielinor, patient as only the truly convinced can be patient. The song doesn't recruit. It doesn't threaten. It simply is, a constant reminder that somewhere in the code, woven into the very magic that makes the game function, is a presence that knows existence is suffering and will wait forever for the world to agree. Adventurers who hear the song too often report strange experiences. Their victories feel hollow. Their accomplishments seem temporary. Their quests blur together into meaningless repetition. Some quit playing. Others push through, treating it as just another challenge to overcome, another debuff to ignore. The game moves on. Updates release. New content launches. Players level up, max out, start over on new accounts. And through it all, woven into every rune, every spell, every magical moment, Sephiroth waits. Not defeated, not destroyed, simply redistributed, like a virus in remission. A philosophical argument that can never be fully refuted, only managed.